Yes, according to my first officer, Dieter's instructions, we should be going live right now, and we'll find out for sure. I'll just check in with my guest, Steve. Steven, say hello if you hear me.
Hi, Ron. Ron, good evening. I hope you're staying cool in Phoenix, Arizona tonight.
We're working at it as long as you stay in air conditioning. So thanks. That's going to be our no longer a surprise guest. Steven's going to come on and talk to us about his experiences with flight anxiety. And I think the best thing I could do right now is to go ahead and start the share, and we'll get this show on the road. So, okay. Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Fearless Flight Live. I'm Capt Ron, of course, and glad you're here with us tonight. If you have a fear of flying, or maybe someone you love is afraid to fly, or maybe like so many of us, you're just fascinated by the airplanes and the magic of flight. So regardless of whatever brought you here, you're in the right place. And this is where we combine aviation expertise, psychology, and a whole lot of heart to help you understand and get through your flight anxiety, or simply appreciate the miracle of modern aviation with a little bit different lens. So I got what I think is a really incredible show lined up. So let's dive in. First, of course, I always mention the Birds of a Feather group invitation here. I want to personally invite you to join our private Facebook community, Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather. And whether you're just starting to work on your fear of flying, or you've already taken some big steps and want to stay supported, this group is for you. It's a safe, private space filled with people who get it and they get you. And that's probably the biggest thing, because with that, you'll find encouragement, expert guidance, and most importantly, you realize that you're not alone. We call it Birds of a Feather because we all flock together to lift each other up. So if you're ready to take the next step, even just to lurk and listen, click the Join Now button and come and say hello. Leave remarks and say hi to the group. We want to welcome you aboard, and you can see the link there, flf.link/BOF, and we'll see you inside the group. Tonight, as I mentioned, I've got a special guest, Stephen Kamhi, who resides in Southern California, and he is going to share his experiences. We flew together a couple weeks ago. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit about this month's live monthly group coaching webinar. And I called it, this might seem kind of weird, Two Selves on a Plane, How Memory Shapes Our Fear of Flying. It's really, I got a few slides I want to talk about what that means. And this is probably something that you have not been acquainted with before. I hope so. And I hope that any number of you will join the webinar this month on on August 21st. There are some insights from the NTSB hearings. I'm just going to touch on what the findings were to validate the fact that it was a complex cause, which most accidents are. And then, of course, we'll take questions and comments if you so desire. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about, I titled this From Fear to Flight, and it's my interview with Stephen Kamhi. Stephen is not only extending himself, but he's extending himself on the road. He was so gracious to come on and talk to us tonight. And he's actually in his car. He promised me he'd pull off to the side so we wouldn't have to worry about the real risk in the world, and that is driving on the highways here. So with that, I'm going to show you a little trailer that we made of his flight that I do for people, my VIP coaching students. And so if you would sit back, relax, and watch this, and we'll start the interview when it's.
There's a lot of people out there who, over the last few decades, have made certain promises to me. Like, if you get on a flight, I'll pay for your European trip, I'll pay for your Vegas trips. Let's get on a flight right now. We'll go to Vegas for the weekend. And
that's awesome.
We may become a collecting.
So here we are.
We finally made it. I'm so glad. Well, at the beginning of the trip, I haven't been on the plane yet, but it's been, was it 1988? So September 25th, 1988 was the last time I was on a flight.
And how do you remember that day?
I'm pretty good at dates. Music, I
Okay.
can tell you the #1 song, Don't Worry, Be Happy by Bobby McFerrin was the
Oh my
#1 song.
God.
I'm pretty good at dates.
Yeah.
But it's been that long. And you know, here we are talking. I was at your Valencia class in May. It was May 10th. And I just want to thank you for what you do. I mean,
Oh, it's my pleasure.
there's, you know, the odds were that I was not getting on.
Place in particular that you're thinking about flying?
Right now, my mind is going to Vegas, coming back tonight, and having dinner.
One day at a time.
One day at a time.
So Stephen Kamhi has successfully slipped the Sulu bonds of Earth and now is a certified fearless flyer at Cooper Takeoff. That's from the Poem High Flight.
Ron, I got to tell you something. Thank you so much. You're welcome. This means after 36 years of not being on a flight, I've seen other people get this. And I said, will I ever get this? You deserve it. We were flying all day today back and forth to Vegas, and I want to thank you for everything.
You're welcome.
It's phenomenal, Ron.
Congratulations.
Thank
Way
you
to
so
go,
much.
Way to go.
Thank you so much. I'm proud of this.
Very well.
This is going to be framed in my office.
That's perfect.
Thank you.
Well, Stephen has been a longtime viewer of Fearless Fight Live, and he thought flying was simply off the table, as you can tell. And it wasn't just a passing discomfort; it was a wall that kept him grounded for decades. He's going to tell you about all the people that have been supporting him over the years, trying to get him back on the airplane. But instead of giving up, he got curious. And that, you know, you've heard me say this before, it takes a high level of curiosity for people to go through this. And he leaned into the tools, the community, and the support that we try to offer here at Fearless Flight. And so in July, just about 2 weeks ago, we flew not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and symbolically. And tonight he's here to share what that transformation looks like from the inside out. He will be without video, but we got his robust voice here. So Stephen, welcome. It's
Ron,
nice to have you.
Thank you so much. July 16th, 2025 was an incredible day. And I attended your class in Valencia back in May. And you've said a lot of things that really made sense. But one of the most things that I really found that put it over the top, saying we have to do it, I'm saying, Ron, you said, Steve, what could be so wrong? 2 guys on a Wednesday afternoon flying into Vegas for lunch. We had a great time. Well, we had a great time at the lunch. We were halfway there, but it was a remarkable experience. As in the video that you just ran, as I said, the last time that I flew prior to July 16th of this year was in September, I think it was September 25th, 1988. Now think about that, Ron. Who was president? What the world was like back then? I was getting married that year in December, so it was right before I got married. I'm an attorney practicing in California, so it was actually right before I passed the California bar exam, which was a few months later that year. So there was, between that period of time and my life with first becoming an attorney, then a few weeks later, it was actually about 2 or 3 weeks later, marrying my beautiful wife, Allison, who you met in Valencia, and having 2 wonderful kids who, their whole life, they've never flown with me. In the early days, I was panicked when they went on a flight, and as they got older, they decided what they wanted to do. But, our trips living in Southern California in the LA area consisted of Las Vegas, San Diego, Santa Barbara, Las Vegas, Santa Barbara, San Diego, once in a while, San Francisco. We once did a trip out to Phoenix. Actually, it was opening day in 2006. We went to the baseball stadium out there. My kids and my wife are delighted. And again, I want to thank you and all the members in the Facebook group for your support and everybody's support. And as I said in that video, if you were to ask me at the beginning of the year, or if, well, we went to Vegas, so let's put it in Vegas terms. If you were to make a bet at the beginning of the year that I would be or not be on a flight this year, that would have been a major, major long shot. So here we are. So any questions that anybody has, I'll be happy to answer questions or get into specifics on that.
You bet. And I'm here trying to man all my things here to see if I can do this without keep the sound out, and trying to monitor the comments here. So yeah, well, I think what makes your journey so inspiring, Steve, is it's the honesty and heart that you brought to the process. And your story is a reminder that fear does not have to define us, and you can change at any point in your life. And I dare say it does get more difficult sometimes for us as we get older, because we get more entrenched in our beliefs and our ways about that. So I want to remind everybody that whether they are here tonight because they're struggling with their own fear or supporting someone who is, your story really does show people it's possible to do things that they never thought possible. So, where did your fear begin?
Well,
when it did.
I've always been a fear of flying, and I'll tell you the number of trips I had since 1974. I was 12 years old in early 74. In January of that year, took a trip with my brother, my dad, my grandparents, and my uncle. We went to Washington and New York. Winter 74, a lot of snow. It was the second week of January of 74. And it was not fun. I mean, this was a cross-country trip. It was not fun. I did not go on it. If you have a moment, I'll tell you a really cool story, Ron.
Okay.
Fast forward to March of 79, I'm taking my grandparents to the airport for a trip to Las Vegas for the weekend. I took them to Burbank Airport. I was graduating high school that year, and my grandparents said, we're so happy. As a gift, as a graduation gift, we want to take you on a cruise. We want to take you and your oldest cousin on a cruise. And when we get back from Las Vegas, let's plan it, a Caribbean cruise. Now, in my mind, the first thing that came to my mind was Caribbean cruise. We're certainly not driving to Florida, so this means an airplane. So, okay, took it all. I said, that sounds great. That cruise morphed into, from my cousin and me to my brother, one of my brothers saying, I want to go too, to about 30 to 40 family members going on a 7-day Caribbean cruise. It was August of 1979. And, I was fearful of flying. I was not cured yet from that Washington trip, that New York trip in 74. Next time was 79. It sort of, put a damper on the trip for me. The planning as it got closer, I did it. We had it. Listen, a 17-year-old on a cruise in 1979. I mean, that was fantastic, a Caribbean cruise. But I remember when we got closer to coming back, it so happens we got off the 7-day cruise and went to New Orleans for the weekend. Being in New Orleans, I was getting panicked because now it's real. Even though I flew from Florida to Louisiana to New Orleans, it was just turning into really, really, anxiety getting back on that flight. I had a great time, had a fantastic time. We're going back nearly 50 years ago. And
wow.
And then that was it. I flew a handful of times from LA to San Francisco. One when I was in I was a law clerk then. We had a senior partner. We had to go up on a case. He was a pilot, by the way, and he knew that I was fearful of flying. But we did that, and then after that was the last time was September of '88. That was the last time I was on a plane before July of this year.
Wow.
So,
when you fly,
yes.
what thoughts or physical reactions come up for you?
Well, in 79, claustrophobia wasn't really the big issue then. It was in those years you had the hijackings and you had planes crashing. In fact, that flight was on August 10th of 79. I know you'll remember, and I don't want to bring these things up, but a couple of months earlier, we had that big DC-10 accident in Chicago on Memorial Day weekend 79. I was on a DC-10 to that flight to Florida. And, let's take that same thing a little further here. Recall, we went on our flight on July 16th of 2025. I think you know where I'm going with this. You spent the topic last week on the subject. That flight from Burbank to Las Vegas with that, what was it, an antique airline? What was that? The near miss where they dropped 500 feet?
Is all we know right now. It was a vintage fighter jet built by Britain. It was one of their frontline fighters called a Hawker Hunter. And there's a couple, there's warbirds like that. Matter of fact, Van Nuys Airport out close to you, it's where a lot of the Hollywood celebrities who fly and have the money to own these vintage birds have them. But this was a fighter, a British fighter that's in private ownership right now. And he was, yeah, go ahead.
Hold on one second. Let me just send this to voicemail. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Well, it'll go to it or send a voicemail. Sorry about that. Are we still there?
I'm still here. You're doing good.
So, but Ron, I looked at that. That flight was the 11 or 11:30 flight. That was our flight. We left. That was, I don't know if it's the same plane. You would probably know better than I do if it's the same planes every day, just doing a rotation.
It was certainly probably a Southwest Boeing 737-700. Probably not the same airplane, but that doesn't really matter anyway. Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying that, you all of a sudden you become, 3 days later you see that, and I have some questions on that, but that's for a call with you and I, just as far as how you would handle something like that, being a passenger on a plane, that 10 minutes into takeoff, with about a half hour left, even though you're fine, like someone who's a fearful flyer, how do you deal with the rest of the duration on the plane? Yes, thank goodness, thank God, everybody landed safely, and there was no major incident on that. But in that moment of time, that last half hour, what do you do if that was 3 days earlier and you or I were on the plane? What would that be like?
We don't know, but I would love, I don't know, maybe randomly somebody might be listening to the show tonight, but I would love to talk to the passengers, because I have an inkling that was probably more resolvable for the people on that flight than it would be for some of us on the ground reading the story, for one big reason. Immediately, I understand the pilot came on the PA and he explained exactly what happened, and that they had successfully avoided that, and that confrontation in the air. And I usually, when you do things like that, this is what I have trouble telling the airlines, when we have delays at the gate, mechanicals and stuff. I used to be, when I flew, I walked back through the cabin and talked to people, because if you tell people what's going on and keep them informed, that's why I ask you to meet the pilots when you get on and fly someplace. If you do that and keep the passengers informed, it usually really helps. And I'll extend that to another thing. If you're on a flight and something happens, and maybe nobody else really got or had a reaction, but you did, like turbulence or something like that, I recommend and tell all of my students to go ahead when you're leaving the flight. If you can get a hold of the pilots, oftentimes they're standing up there when you exit, ask them, say, hey, back there when we had that bump or whatever it was, were we in any danger? Or just debrief with them. Literally a minute, 60 seconds worth of conversation with the pilot to unload that bit of stress that you went through can save you a whole lot of stress down the road. And I'll ask another question to this. If that had happened, of course, we don't really know what you would have gone through, but if that had happened 3 days before we flew, would we have had to talk about that at the very least?
It would have been, hey, Ron, I think I'm going to drive out to Phoenix and let's go to a baseball game out there. It's a cool stadium, something like that. But I don't know. But you know what? But what you just asked is a very, very relevant question, because as everybody knows that's listening, because they're a little bit more in tune to the news, that wasn't the only incident in the last month. I mean, these are coming rapidly, once, twice a week now. I stopped looking at the news. I mean, something just happened, I think, 2 nights ago, which, now I'm mixing them up. When you're mixing up airline incidents, that means there's a lot going on. But enough of that. I have a plan, Ron, to get on another flight. And Ron, Remember when we were flying, I told you that I really enjoyed photography and
Absolutely.
Southwestern style and cowboy
Yeah.
and rodeo photography. Well, guess what? Tying back to the video that you did, and I'll elaborate on that for a moment. In the 30, 40 years, whatever it was, a lot of people said after family gatherings, "Hey, Steve, let's go to Vegas tonight. Let's go to New York for a Broadway show. Let's go to Europe. You get on the flight. I'm going to pay for. You're my guest. Blah 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 blah." And it was pretty safe. I mean, they meant it wholeheartedly, and they were going to take me on those flights, but I just never got on the flight. Well, my brother asked me. One of my brothers asked me, "So, what's your next flight?" And I said, dude, I just got off of a flight. That was very, very stressful. I mean, I'm not thinking, he goes, no. You got to think about it, because I think part of it is, you could talk to Captain Ron, is to get on your next flight. I said, well, there's an outstanding, we'll use the term marker or whatever you want to call it, but there's some promises being made. And he said, Steve, it would be my pleasure. You pick the location. You'll be my guest. I picked the location. And again, he loves New York. This particular brother I'm talking about, he loves Broadway. And I said, I would love to do that too as well, but that's a 5-hour flight. I'd like to do a shorter flight. So we are booked this week to go to Fort Worth, Texas. And I am so looking forward to that, between the, the stockyards, the Drover Hotel, the world's oldest indoor rodeo at the Coliseum, the Cowboy Channel bar. It was phenomenal. I'm so excited about it. Now, am I nervous about it? I feel like I did back in 1979. So that might be good. I feel like a 17-year-old again, getting that anticipatory anxiety coming up for a flight. But right now, he said today, we were together today, he said, Steve, you're getting past the point of no return, because certain things are going to be non-refundable. I said, well, right now I'm on. We're going to Fort Worth. So that's my next flight, Ron.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna do fine. And as I tell people, you may experience some anxiety leading up to it, but when you get down there, you'll notice some familiar sensations. And something I'm going to touch on when we get done with our interview tonight is how the mind remembers things, and that's a big contributor to why people get stuck after they have experience like that. But I want to emphasize, the courage it took for you to go forward. As people don't get to meet people like you, like I do, and it's really inspiring, and that's why I love doing it. So,
Ron, what you do is phenomenal. The people you help, you're just, listen. I mean, look what just happened. I went on an airplane. I met you in April. Before April, I was listening to a KNX radio in Los Angeles. It's an all news station. And I think you were interviewed something. I don't recall what happened. And my wife was out of town that afternoon. She was visiting her dad in Florida, and I'm on the way to the office. And they said something, go to our website or call Fearless, whatever it was. I got your information. We went on that 15-minute interview. I mean, from that point to now, I've taken a flight. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me, and I'm the one who was involved with this. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah. And what was it like for you? Not so much me and that, but what was coaching like?
The coaching was, we went. So what happened was, I'm fortunate to be in LA, because you did this in Phoenix and in Los Angeles. So, some of the people who live on the East Coast, I don't know what your plans are, moving this to different parts of the country. But when we went to Valencia, you build up this whole, what do you call it? The part of an airport, the terminal, and recreated a terminal. And my wife and I went, and I found that to be the most helpful thing in the world. And I asked you a question in Valencia, because I don't want to harp on airline incidents in the past, but there was one in particular that we just crossed over the 40th anniversary mark. Actually, this week it was August 2nd of 1985. I think that was the date, but it was August of '85. I asked you a question. I said, Ron, in Dallas, I forgot. Correct me on the technical terms. There was a plane that went down because of the wind shear, and again, this was back in April. You said, Steve, that will never happen again, because there's something now called the Doppler radar, which Texas got first, and the technology is such 40 years later that will never happen again. And you answered
Yeah.
that question, Ron. And I, that's one of the reasons why I'm going to Dallas. Basically, the same week that happened, 40 years earlier.
Right. And I think that proves, I found with working with people like you over the last 38 years that people need to know the truth. And oftentimes that means, being honest with them about the fact that airplanes have crashed in the past. But the aviation industry, unlike a lot of other industries, when we have an accident, probably because it's so visible, and in the past, sometimes the crashes were very big, very messy, with a lot of fatalities. It got a lot of attention, but because of that, we go to great lengths to find out what happened. And as you alluded to, there were three major changes out of that crash in Dallas when it was a Delta 1011 that crashed on short final, and it was because of a downdraft that happened that had been going on for a long time, but we just got lucky and never had to deal with that. But because of that, we had specific training about wind shear that every pilot has to take and has to renew every time they get in the simulator. We developed some new instruments in the cockpit to develop wind shear alert systems that both require training and instrumentation in the airplane. And as you mentioned, airplanes, all the airports that you would go into now have Doppler radar, which are much better at detecting conditions like that. And since that, we've never had another accident due to wind shear like that since that time.
No, I remember you told me that. And that was that was a consideration when I booked the Fort Worth flight, because it's the same airport. I'm assuming it's the same airport, Dallas. I don't think it's changed.
Dallas Fort Worth. Yep, it was the Dallas Fort Worth airport. Yep.
Yeah. So, anyways, again, enough of that for a moment. But getting into your question, how did it help? So let me explain what I've done, and hopefully it could be helpful to some people. Absolutely, Ron is so generous with his time, and to make sure he knows. Ron is so comforting and so generous with his time. He will talk to you, not pressure you, walk you through it, and you can then make that decision yourself if you want to get on the flight. So I felt very comfortable. I was fortunate enough to fly with Ron that day, and that was very, very made a difference. I'm thinking about that now, the upcoming flight. Capt Ron's not going to be on that flight, but I think I have some of the tools now to help. A couple of other things. I posted this in the FearlessFlight Facebook Birds of a Feather group. There's a fan. It could be any fan, but the one I posted is what I used. A little portable USB-C fan. It was. You saw me. I was using it the whole time, the whole 45 minutes. In fact, I just bought a second one for the 3-hour flight in case it runs out of power. But it's very helpful if you're claustrophobic. It's basically 5-speed fan. Get it on Amazon. The name of the fan I don't recall right now, but it's in the link. It's a recent post. Just search my name, Stephen, CAMHI. Search my name in the group. You'll see this a green fan, and I highly suggest that. What else? When I flew last time,
I think that speaks to the fact that people need to learn your individual symptoms and what helps you and what doesn't. And for you, that was a significant part of it, because we all sweat a lot when we get nervous, and there are times when it gets hot around the country. Now most of the airlines are shutting the windows while they're waiting at the gate boarding, but it does. You get a lot of solar heating, and the airplane gets warm, and the air conditioner on the ground can't keep up with it. It's just kind of like your car in the house sometimes.
I think you once said also that they cut back the power when they're trying to go down the runway or stay. Something that it's not the same output flow as it is when you're flying.
Well, during engine start, which is when you really need it. Yeah. We do divert some of the airflow that comes out of the overhead vents there, and so people notice that, and just subtle things like that can unconsciously trigger your anxiety and drive it up to a new level. So if you've got something like you did with that portable fan there, it can really help you get through that. So
Guys, it's a $20 fan. I mean, it's just get
yeah.
it and charge it. And even if you don't use it, it could be a crux knowing that it's there. I used it and I found it to be very helpful. Another
Yeah.
thing didn't exist in 1988, noise cancellation headphones, not earbuds, noise cancellation headphones.
Yep.
That was the picture that you posted. You saw me wearing those. I love orange, one of my favorite colors with blue. So that day I wore a blue shirt and the orange headphones. That the Apple headphones, whatever they're called, the AirPods.
Yeah, I think they're AirPods Max. I think they're
Max.
called.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that was a game changer. That was a game changer to be able to do that.
And you might describe to people you had some issues with nausea going up there, and just share what that was like.
Let me touch upon that. We went from Burbank to Las Vegas, and I was warned by family members, other people, you really want to take your first flight to Vegas in the summer. That's when you get all the turbulence. And I said, well,
right.
We touched upon turbulence with my sessions with Captain Ron, and yeah, I'm fine with that. So what happened was I didn't eat a lot beforehand, just from nerves actually, and everything was fine. In the last I don't know, 10 minutes or so, the plane started turbulence really started kicking in. It was going I'm describing as a layperson, but the plane was like going up and down, side to side, probably not that dramatic. And I started getting a little nauseous. Nothing, thank goodness, nothing happened. But I remember getting off the plane and I told Ron, I just got to sit down. Let me just catch my breath and just sit down. Well, what I did to remedy that, my father-in-law is a retired physician, and remember, my father-in-law has been with me the whole time. Let's get on a plane. Let's get on a flight. It's time to get on a flight. And I called him from Vegas, and we just talked about some of the medications I was on for flying. It doesn't matter which medication, but I'm sure you could, read between the lines of you take Dramamine with certain medications because Dramamine has a drowsy effect. So we worked it out, and you and I had a great lunch at that Mexican restaurant in Las Vegas at the airport. Worked it out, and I felt better. So what am I doing now? Well, I'm taking Dramamine with me on the way to Fort Worth. So hopefully I don't have to use it, but that's now going to be in my flight bag.
Again, I think honoring yourself by acknowledging the feelings, taking care of yourself when we got there. And it's ironic. Not only did you feel nauseous, but then you recovered enough to eat Mexican food. So, that speaks a lot of that. So, yeah, but it's knowing
what was happening at that point, Ron, was that last 10 minutes flying into Vegas. First of all, it was a whole strange thing because I know the geography of Vegas. I've been there a million times. I love Las Vegas. Flying over, seeing Allegiant Stadium and Mandalay Bay, I know the airport's just a little bit to the east. Well, we're still very high up. And I said, there's no way we are landing at that airport at this altitude where we are now if we're right over Mandalay Bay or, a little south of Mandalay Bay.
Right.
So, that was, okay, where is this going? And it caused, more anxiety, more nausea. But what can I say? It worked out. And
you were just wondering, the mechanics of it. How do you get down from here down there? And the way they do it is they drive us way out over Lake Mead there and turn around and come back because there's a lot of other airplanes that are being sequenced at the same time out there.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing, what I did was I bought Twizzlers, that licorice or whatever that is, that Twizzlers, just for some sugar, just to have in my bag for on the way back. Got a little claustrophobic. I had a piece of that, and that actually hit the spot on the way back to Burbank. So I had that in my bag. So I'm going to be doing that this time. Should I be eating the licorice? No, I should not be, but it'll be in my bag.
Yep. And again, that's knowing yourself. And one of the things I want to highlight here for everyone that might be watching is success in the process of overcoming your fear doesn't mean the absence of fear. On the contrary, it means learning how to show up with the fear and not let it control you. And that's what you and so many other people like you have done. And there were moments, I think, you've shared tonight when your heart rate increases, you get some uncertainty in there, like landing, how are we going to get down here? That's not a failure. That's the nature of healing. And what matters the most is that you stayed in the process, Stephen. And I really, really admire you for that. You reached out, you used the tools, and and you stay connected to the goals there. And the other thing that I want to compliment you on is you are now going to take a follow-up flight. And I think that's so important to do that, is to keep the momentum going there. So life after the flight, you've touched on this. We've kind of fast forwarded before here, and this is where you really get to celebrate. And I can't wait to hear what the next experience is going to be, to actually put this to practical use and get out there with it's your brother that's flying with you?
My brother and my wife were going
Yeah.
to Fort Worth.
Cool. And this is the part where I like to have you, say to people out there, typically the person is that, wow, he wasn't really that nervous. He wasn't really that afraid. And I think
guys, if
you
you're
can
listening,
really
let me
speak to
tell you
that.
something. Let me tell you something. If you're listening live, or you're going to watch this on the replay, I am panicked right now. I don't mean this moment while we're on the call, but I got a flight in a couple of days. That's not a 45-minute flight. Captain Ron's not going to be next to me on this flight, and it's a 3-hour plus flight.
Sure.
It's tough. It's very tough, but I'm as of right now, my plans are to go through it. Please take advantage of Captain Ron's generosity. He's a great resource to jump on a call with. You and I, Ron, we have a call set for Thursday before the flight. And absolutely, he says, text him. He'll get back to you. Go on the Facebook pages. I'll interact. Not that I'm the expert now, just because I took a flight after 37 years, but I'll be happy to talk to people, whether on the phone or, through the Facebook page. As Ron said, pay it forward. Well, I don't have enough to pay forward yet, because I'm still haven't gotten over my fear of flying. But anything I can do, if you want to ask me, more personal questions, I'll be happy to talk to you.
Well, you do have a lot to pay it forward, and you are paying it forward, Stephen. It's just amazing. And I think your story, like so many others, is a reminder that people can really change. You can get through this no matter who you are. And if you're out there feeling stuck, just know that you're not alone, and you don't have to figure this out by yourself. And here at this thing I call Fearless Flight, I've literally talked to thousands of people over the last 38 years about taking that first step. And we want to be ready when you are. So I want to thank you for watching, and Steve, I really do want. I mean, the fact that you're out on the road tonight and took time out to do this says a lot. You're very generous.
I pulled over. I promise you, I'm pulled over, so I'm not driving right now.
Good.
I thought this was important. I absolutely wanted to, help with this, and anything that I can, assist with. I think it's important. I mean, again, look, I got on a flight after 37 years? I keep thinking 36,
Yeah.
37.
Yep.
1988. I mean, there's something to say about it. Make that 15-minute appointment. I don't want to sound like Captain Ron and Dieter spokesperson, but honestly, make the 15-minute appointment. And even if you don't get on a flight, and see what happens. It's fantastic. Ron, thanks again.
You bet. Thank you. And thanks for taking time tonight, and be safe when you get back on the road out there, because that's where the risk really starts. And I know that your participation in the Birds of a Feather group is really going to help others out there. So say hi to Stephen, say congratulations to him. And
does
and
anybody
Stephen,
have any
best of luck to you.
questions? Ron, I'm not looking at the screen. Does anybody on Facebook Live have any questions that I can? I'll be happy to answer for them right now.
That's the short part of my coverage tonight, because I normally have Dieter who's monitoring for me, so I haven't been able to do it. So I apologize, but I will forward questions when I get off of this to you,
Okay.
So that you can help other bees out there.
I'm
So
going
thanks,
to run
Stephen.
right now. I'm going to watch the rest of the show on archive when I get home. But thank you again. Thanks for everything, and we'll keep it going. And thanks for what you do, Ron. You and Dieter and the crew.
Absolutely. Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate it. Okay.
Good night.
All right. So I highlighted at the beginning of the show, we're going to do the top topic for this month, one that I think will be interesting. Not I think, I know you'll find it interesting. And it's one that you don't see written up often. And that is, how do we get these memories? Stephen mentioned, the buildup and the memory of accidents that were in the media and some of his early experiences there. What happens to our memory? And this is based on some of the research from a fellow named Daniel Kahneman and his partner Amos Tversky, who spent 30 years looking at, from a standpoint of social psychology, how does the brain work? How do we process information? And the title of this is from a paper that he wrote called Two Selves on a Plane. Actually, two selves in your brain, but I kind of stole it on a plane because it has a lot of relevance to fear of flying. And it's how memory fuels our flying narrative. And the little byline here is, do not let a distorted memory keep you grounded. And if you come to the webinar, you will discover some tools that will help you fly free. So we're not just going to talk about the phenomenon. We're going to actually talk about how you can use this knowledge and some other tools that we promote to get through this. And the self lives fully in the present. It feels sensations in real time. That's one of the reminders when you have this physiological meltdown. Sometimes, your palms sweat, your heart starts to palpitate. You feel nausea in your stomach for some people like Stephen, and the things like the sounds of the engines, the slight bumps of turbulence, or the comfort of your seatbelt clicking into place. You all experience that as it is. And then on the right, we meet the remembering self. That's called the experiencing self. And we have this thing called the remembering self. And this is a part of our brain that looks back. It makes up stories and creates meaning from those stories, as is the main function of the higher parts of our brain. And here's the twist. The remembering self doesn't always tell the truth. It tends to focus on peak moments, especially if they're intense or scary ones, because that's kind of the part of the brain that it's supporting, and that is to keep you safe. And how that experience ended. And that's how it builds a narrative that you carry into the future. So you may have had a mostly smooth flight with a brief bump or turbulence, but the remembering self locks that one jolt in and says, that flight was awful. So when it comes to flying and fear, the gap between your moment-to-moment experience, your experiencing self, and your memory of that experience, the remembering self, is huge. And we're going to help you understand that difference between these two selves, and how that's the first step towards taking back control of your flying narrative. We're going to, as I've touched on here, what we're going to talk about is the difference between the moment and the memory, and understand why the brain exaggerates fear and how you can use psychology to reshape your narrative around flying. Why it matters for people to understand this. Fear doesn't come just from the flight. In fact, it rarely comes from flight. It often comes from the story that you told yourself afterward. You've heard me say, life isn't about what happens to you. It's about the story that you tell yourself about what happens to you. And there's something called the peak end rule. And we'll talk about how it traps fearful flyers. Why our memories are biased towards fear, and how to build new empowering narratives using real techniques. You're definitely going to want to come to this, because you're going to walk away with a fresh understanding of some of the things that you carry in this experience with you. Past flight experiences, often miserable ones. And you're going to get some tools to help rewire your flight-related memories. And if you come in earnest, you're going to experience a powerful shift in how you view upcoming flights. And you know that's what keeps most of you either in anticipatory anxiety or miserable when you board the airplane. And as usual, I'll have a couple of guided visualizations to help reinforce the positive memory encoding from all this. So you're going to you'll have a fresh understanding of your past flight experiences. You're going to learn some simple tools to rewire your brain. Third, you're going to start to feel a powerful shift in how you view these upcoming flights. And finally, you'll receive a guided visualization, actually two of them, to help calm you and help you transform your life as it relates to flying. Remember, the truth is you don't need to change the sky. You just need to change how you remember it. Okay. Again, so this is the two selves on a plane, how memory fuels our narrative. Don't let a distorted memory keep you grounded. Come discover the tools that help you fly free. It's going to be on Thursday, August 21st, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And here's the link to register for that. And if you're a member of the Fearless Flyer Club, of course, you get attendance is free for you to do that. Last thing I'm going to say, kind of as a teaser, we'll talk about this a little bit more in detail, perhaps next week, but the NTSB came out with 7 key findings from that January 29th mid-air collision up in Washington, D.C. between the American regional jet and the Black Hawk helicopter up there. And they're listed here. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on there. It'll be helpful to talk in greater detail. All I wanted to do is share with you the intensity of this hearing, the details that came out. And if you read if you've watched any of the highlights or seen any of the writings in that, you know that this is why flying is so safe. And tragically, we have experiences that happen like that collision, but you can bet that there will be some changes. Sadly, as humans, sometimes it takes us in things like this to happen for us to really say we need to make changes. And when I was reading through some of these findings here, it reminded me some of the irritations that I would experience over the years as a pilot, thinking, why is it that as human beings, we have to wait until something like this happens to make some needed and necessary changes? But anyway, we will talk about this in greater detail and talk about how this can help you, hopefully, change the narrative that you've developed over that. So as we wrap up tonight's show, I want to say thank you. Thanks to Stephen for showing up and sharing his story, making himself vulnerable to you out there. Whether you're here because you're afraid to fly or you're supporting someone who is, or you're just fascinated by the world of aviation, your presence here matters. And it means that you're not standing still, you're moving forward. And as long as you're moving forward, there's hope. We covered a lot tonight from how your memory shapes your fear, at least a teaser on that, and how tools and science can help you rewrite those stories. You do not have to be stuck forever, as Stephen has shared, and he gave us a powerful example about what's possible when you face your fear with curiosity and courage. And if there's one thing I hope you take away with this, is you're not broken, you're not alone, and you're not stuck. You have the power to reframe your experience, and we're here to walk that path with you. So if tonight sparked something in you, I invite you to join us in the Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather Facebook group. It is free. It's been the motivator for a lot of people. It's private and full of people just like you who are finding their wings. So until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, you're just one flight away. So thanks for joining me again this week. And I'm Capt Ron, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week, and hopefully in the skies. So have a great week, Gabriel.